you for coming in today. I hope you brought a snack, perhaps a blanket or a pillow, so you can get comfortable for our afternoon book reading. We have a lot of different options today, so I hope you like them. So we have, this first one is called Festival of Colors. So this is by Kabir Segal and Shurusla Segal. We have this one, and then we have a Hanukkah with Mazel by Joel Edward Stein and illustrated by Elisa Vafuri. We also have Amy Wu and the Lantern Festival by Kat Zhang, illustrated by Charlene Chua. The next one we have is The Night Before Eid, a Muslim family story by Aya Khalil, illustrated by Rasheen Carrier. Next we have The True Story of the Grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal, and What It Means to Be Free. This was written by Alice Faye Duncan, and the artwork is by Keturah A. Bobo. Next we have The Tales from Old Ireland. So this one is a bit of an anthology, so there are several stories in here. We won't read all of them. This is by Malachi Doyle and Naeem Sharkey. Next is All the Greatness in You, and this is by Tamika Fryer Brown and illustrated by Ileana Harris. And lastly, we have For a Girl Becoming, and this is by Joy Harjo and Adriana Garcia. So, which one would you like to start with? We have so many options. Go back to the first one we started with, the Festival of Colors. Okay, great. Let us take a look here and put these other ones aside. Okay, alright, so once again, this is the Festival of Festival of Colors, and again by Kabir and Shurutisa Segal, and this is illustrated by Vashti Harrison. Guavas are ripening, lotuses are blooming, and holly, the Indian Festival of Colors, is almost here. Shintu and Mintu are getting ready. Holly hey, they whisper. Or is it holly hi? Holly hives. They gather hibiscus flowers because hibiscus flowers make red. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. It's a vibrant red. They gather orchids because orchids make purple. They gather marigolds because marigolds make orange. And they're so wide-eyed at all the colors that they're seeing in the garden. They gather irises because irises make blue. Then they lay the flowers out to dry. Then they separate the petals. And then they press the petals into fine powders. At last, the petal powders are ready. Shinto and Minto are ready too. And so is their little sister. And so are their parents. And they go off to the festival. Oh, and their friends are ready too. And their neighbors. And then poof, purple pops. Poof, red bursts. Poof, orange erupts. Poof, blue splashes. Poof, poof, poof. Poof, poof. Holly hi, holly hi, holly hi, everyone shouts. And they all get covered in these beautiful colors. Holly is a festival of fresh starts and friendship and forgiveness. But for Shinto and Minto, it is also a festival of fun. And I don't know if you've ever been a part of a festival like that, or if you've ever done color runs where they celebrate at the end with all of the powders, but it can be pretty fun to be covered in nothing but colors. But as we learned here, the festival is about fresh starts and forgiveness and friendship, which is a beautiful thing. So that was the Festival of Colors. Next, we'll take a look at least one or two tales from old Ireland. Let's see what we can find in here. So we'll take a look at the 12 wild geese. We're always wishing for what we don't have and not caring for what we've already got. And so it was with the Queen of Leinster long ago. She had 12 sons and not a single daughter, and she was half mad with envy, for for every little girl she saw. One day in winter, when the courtyard was covered in snow, the queen was looking out the parlor window. There, lying on the frozen ground, was a calf just killed by the butcher, and a raven standing by it. "Oh," she said, "if only I had a daughter with skin as white as snow, cheeks as red as blood, and hair as black as that raven. I'd give all my 12 sons for her." In that instant, a strange old woman appeared before her. "That's a wicked thing to say," said the old woman. "To punish you for even thinking it, I shall grant your wish. You will have such a daughter, but the very day she is born, you will lose your other children." And with that, she vanished. The queen became pregnant, and she could tell from the first day that she carried a girl. She didn't dare tell the king about her wish, but to keep her son safe, she told him that she feared her 13th childbirth, and that she would like all her sons around her to bring her luck when the time came. So it was that on the day she gave birth, the boys were gathered around, with guards at every door. But the very hour her daughter came into the world, the guards heard a great whirling and whistling, and 12 wild geese were seen flying, one after another, out of the open window and away like arrows through the great forest. The king was in such great grief for the loss of his sons, and there's no telling what he would have done to his wife if he had found out that she was to blame. But although it was evil that brought her about, there was no trace of evil in the heart of the little princess. Bevan, she was called, meaning fair lady, on account of the snowy whiteness of her skin, and she was the most loving and lovable child. The young princess was happy as could be for the first 12 years of her life, but then she began to wonder why she had no brothers or sisters, and began to feel lonely. She heard it whispered that her brothers were dead, and she tormented her mother with questions about what happened, until the queen gave in and told her. Bevan took the news badly. "It's my fault that my brothers became wild geese," she said. "I shall go and find them and return them to their former shapes." The queen had her closely watched, but it was no use. Bevan slipped out of the palace and was away into the darkness of the great forest before the night was done. On she went through morning, afternoon, and evening, until she came to a small wooden house in a clearing. She went in and saw a table laid for 12. She saw meat and bread, cakes and fruit, and a blazing fire in the hearth. Through a door there were 12 beds, and Bevan knew that she had come to the right place. The gate opened, and Bevan heard footsteps in the path. In came 12 young men, and there was sadness on their faces when they laid eyes on her. "What misfortune sent you here, child?" said the eldest, for it was because of a girl that they were banished from court and made to live as wild geese. Only in the hours of darkness do we take human form. 12 long, unhappy years we've lived under this curse, and at the height of our anger, we swore to get revenge by killing the first young girl who came into our hands. "But I'm your only sister," said Bevan, "and I never knew a thing about you until yesterday. As soon as I heard, I stole away from the palace to find you and see how I could help to relieve you from your curse." The young men were at a loss what to do, for the oaths cannot be broken, until an old woman suddenly appeared among them. "I permit you to break your wicked oath," said she. "Your sister has come to save you, but it will not be easy. she must spin and knit 12 shirts from bog down, which she must gather with her own hands. It will take her 5 years, and if she speaks or laughs or cries in all that time, you shall remain wild geese until the day you die. Take care of young Bevan, for she is your only hope." With that the fairy vanished, for fairy she was, and the brothers each in turn hugged and kissed their long-lost sister. For the next 3 years the princess spent all day, every day, picking bog down, spinning it, and knitting it into shirts, until she had finished 8. During all that time she never spoke a word, nor laughed, nor cried, although the work was very hard and heavy. One fine day she was sitting in the garden spinning, when a great hound bounded over the gate toward her. Bevan screamed, fearing for her life, as its paws reached her shoulders, but it licked her forehead and her hair. The next minute a handsome young king rode up to the gate, took off his hat, and asked to be allowed to enter. She gave a little nod, and in he came. The king fell in love with Bevan the moment he set eyes on her. He begged her to come back with him to his palace on the far side of the great forest, for he wished to make her his queen. Bevan couldn't help loving the young king of Connacht as much as he loved her, and although she shook her head 1,000 times, for she did not want to leave her brothers, 1,001 times he asked, and at last she nodded her assent. She put her hand in his, allowed him to kiss her on the lips, and then she gathered up her shirts and bogged down and rode away. As soon as he arrived home, the king sent for his bishop, and he and Bevan were married. He cared not that Bevan would not speak, for love runs deeper than words. In good time, the new queen gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and the king's heart was overrun with happiness. But there was a blot on the joy of the court, in the form of the king's wicked stepmother. She was jealous of Bevan, jealous of their love, and she determined to put a stop to it. She followed Bevan to her bedchamber, gave her a sleeping potion, and stole the tiny baby from her side. Taking him to the window, she saw a hungry wolf below and tossed him down. The beast caught the boy in his jaws and was over the fence and away before anyone could see. The wicked woman pricked her finger, dabbed the blood around the mouth of the sleeping mother, and away she fled to fetch the king. "What have you done with our son?" cried he, when he saw Bevan's bloody mouth. But despite the queen's grief, she could not answer, for she knew that if she did, her brothers would never be human again. "What have you done?" I said. The king shouted, shaking her. His wife neither spoke nor shed a tear. "She has always been strange," his stepmother whispered in the king's ear. "You should never have married her." Try as he did to find some other explanation, the king could not, and at last he came to believe that his beloved queen had devoured their own son. He was wild with sorrow, and it took all the strength of the guards to stop him from destroying Bevan in his rage. When at last the king was calmer, he resolved not to punish his wife too harshly, for he understood that she must have been mad to do such a thing, such a terrible thing, and he could not blame her for an act of madness. He could not hate her either, for she had given him a beautiful child, one whom he had loved dearly. He decided to allow her to remain in the palace, at least until she had a second child, but to keep the child always under the closest guard. He told his stepmother to spread the word that, by a cruel twist of fate, the child had fallen from a window into the jaws of a wild beast. But the wicked woman hinted to one and all of the blood on the queen's lips until everyone believed poor Bevan to be a witch. Bevan knew that her husband was only keeping her until she had another child. She knew that all the people in the land hated her, and yet she could not tell the truth, for she could not utter a word until she had finished the last of the 12 shirts. So she hid away in the tower, gathering bog down by moonlight when no one could see her, and making her shirts. The only joy she had in those long dark months was when the 12 wild geese would come to the trees in the park and look into her window. She knew they loved her, and that in time she would bring them back to human form, and then be able to tell her husband and her people the truth of what had happened. At last another year was at an end, and she had the 12th shirt finished, except for one sleeve. When she took to her bed, and a beautiful girl was born. The king would not allow mother and child to be alone together for a second, but the wicked stepmother bribed some of the guards to let her take their place. She gave a sleeping potion to the queen and tossed the child from the window into the jaws of the wolf, who again was waiting below. Again she pricked her finger, again she smeared the queen's mouth with blood, and again his stepmother told the king and everyone she met that the queen had devoured her own child. Poor Bevan was distraught and thought her life must leave her. The king, whose grief was more than he could bear, gave up on her, and she was thrown into the deepest dungeon with only her knitting. She could neither think nor pray, but sat like a stone, working away at the sleeve of the 12th shirt. The king, when he had recovered slightly, was all for taking Bevan back to the little house in the wood where he'd found her, for she had brought him nothing but bad luck, and he wished to turn time back to the days before he'd met her. But his stepmother and the lords of court would not hear of it, and Bevan was condemned to be burned in the courtyard at 3 o'clock. As the hour drew near, the king went to the furthest part of his palace, and there was no sadder man in the land. When the guards came and led Bevan up to the courtyard, she took the pile of shirts in her arms. There were still a few stitches needed, and desperately she worked them, even while she was tied to the stake. At the last stitch, she was overcome with grief. A tear dropped on her work, but the job was done. "I am innocent," she called out. "Fetch my husband." The executioners stayed their hands, except for one, who was so surprised to hear her shout that he dropped his burning torch. The woodpile went up in flames, but in a rush of wings, the 12 wild geese were standing next to Bevan. In an instant, she flung a shirt over each bird, and there stood 12 fine young men. They untied their sister and pulled her from the flames. While they were comforting the young queen and the king was hurrying to the spot, an old woman appeared among the crowd, holding a tiny princess on one arm and a little prince on the other. There was crying and laughing, hugging and kissing, and no one recognized the old woman, the fairy woman who had twice become a wolf in order to save the prince and princess. The wicked stepmother was put to death in Bevan's place, and everyone lived in comfort for the rest of their lives. That one took a turn and brought us back again. I did not anticipate that ending. That was quite the story. So we have this one called All the Greatness in You. We have all the greatness, all the greatness in you. This is by Tamika Fryer Brown and illustrated by Eliana Harris. You are brave. You are enough. You are your own best thing. Look at you. I can't believe how quickly you have grown. Just yesterday we did the things you now do on your own. Like swinging in a swing, which is a childhood favorite. Always trying to go over. I feel like every kid tries to do that. They try to pump their legs and try to do a 360. Let's see. You make your own bed. You pick your own fro. You dress your own self. You're raring to go. I admire you so. You're such a good helper, no matter the task. You always want to assist. Sous chef, dishwasher, co-pilot, coach, gardener, and meteorologist. You rock the whole list. A thinker you are, a mind full of wonder. You want to know what, how, and why. Sometimes I'll have answers, and sometimes I won't. Keep wondering. Seek, study, try. Wisdom will come by and by. You always bounce back. Trying means failing sometimes, and that can be tough. You shed tears and try again. You keep striving for the win. Resilience is what counts when times get tough. Your best is enough. I love how you roll. You march through life with pep in your step every day. Your heart sees no mountain you cannot climb, no challenge you cannot slay. I am a superhero. Please stay that way. You are my best thing, a gift and a blessing I'll cherish forever. It's true. Tomorrow, should life make you doubt, or forget who you are, or fear something new, remember, you're can-do. Depend on that bounce back. Believe all the greatness in you. Be your own best thing too. So those are words of encouragement from a parent to their child. Alright, so next we have Amy Wu and the Lantern Festival. The Lantern Festival. And this is by Chang, and it's illustrated by Charlene Chua. Lunar New Year is Amy's favorite holiday. Her family celebrates for 2 whole weeks, and she loves everything about it. The food, the decorations, but most of all, Amy loves the traditions. And we have a lot of food. Yummy. Every year she watches Grandma fry a fish in bubbly oil. She helps her parents pull dough into stringy noodles. The whole family goes shopping for brand new clothes, and Amy gets red envelopes filled with pocket money, or even better, candy. Some yummy candy. But tonight is the big event. Tonight is the most special night, the most important tradition. Tonight, Amy's family lights the lantern for Lantern Festival Day. There's the big lantern. The lantern is bright apple red. A golden tassel swings from the bottom. Amy's dad got it from his mom when he was little, which makes it extra special. The Lantern Festival falls on the last night of Lunar New Year celebrations, the night of the first full moon. Amy's family always brings a lantern to the festival. It's the best tradition of all. Ding dong, Amy's friends arrive one by one. Each brings their own lantern. Lynn's lantern is shaped like a fish. When he spins, it swims through the air. Ying Ying's lantern is bigger than she is. Pink flowers bloom on the paper. Willa and Sam hold up their lanterns. His is rectangular. A dragon decorates each side. Hers is gorgeous and golden and shines like the sun. Together, Amy and Dad bring the lantern down from the attic. It's not fish-shaped. It doesn't have flowers or dragons. It doesn't shine like the sun. But it is the most beautiful lantern Amy has ever seen. Every time we light it, Dad says, smiling, I think of your grandmother. Then something terrible happens. Oh no, she tripped on the cat. Cats are notorious for that. Oof. Oh no, says Mom. Are you okay? Asked Dad. I think so, says Amy. But the lantern is not okay. Not at all. And she fell right on it. Oh no. Don't worry, says Dad. We'll buy another one. But a new lantern won't make Dad smile the same way. It won't make him think of Amy's grandmother. It won't be extra special. It won't be tradition. Amy has to do something. She has to save Lantern Festival Day. Can she repair the lantern? Make it as good as new? Can she make it extra special the way it was before? So she's here with the crushed lantern with the guilty little kitty. No, just kidding. But she's going to see if she can fix it. You think she can fix it? What about glue? Asks Sam. Amy has all sorts of glue. Glue in sticks, and glue in pots, and glue that sticks her fingers together, maybe forever. She tries to glue the lantern back into shape. Says Sam, maybe not glue. She's making a big mess and trying to fix it. I don't think the glue's gonna work. What about tape? Asks Willa. Amy has all kinds of tape. Clear tape, sparkly tape, and tape that sticks on both sides. She tries to tape the lantern back into shape. Oh, says Willa, maybe not tape. Let's see here. Try patches? Asks Lynn. But that doesn't work either. Band-aids? Shouts Ying Ying. But that only makes it worse. No matter how hard Amy tries, the lantern doesn't look the same. What are you all doing in here? Asks Dad. It's festival time. We can't go without the lantern, cries Amy. It won't be the same. It won't be extra special. It won't be tradition. Dad hugs her close. Just because it's not the same doesn't mean it won't be extra special. Sometimes traditions change, and that's okay. He winks at her. But I also love this lantern. Maybe we can make something that's a little new and a little old. The best kind of tradition. A little new and a little old? The gears in Amy's head start to turn. Time to go, said Amy's mom. Is everyone ready? Amy and Dad are hard at work. Almost, she yells. The door bursts open. Amy and Dad hold their lantern high in the air. The paper is bright apple red. A golden tassel swings from the bottom. It fills the room with a warm red glow. And it looks like she created some pictures as well. And some of the band-aids and the tape in heart shapes. Is it still extra special? Asks Amy. Does it still make you think of Granny? Dad smiles even brighter than the lantern. It does, but now it's extra special because it also makes me think of you. Look at that moon, says Grandma, as they arrive at the festival. The first full moon of the year. The moon watches as Amy eats bowls of sweet sticky tongyang. It climbs higher as she oos over firecrackers and ahs over the dragon dance. Lanterns glow everywhere. Strings of them shine above the streets. Bunches of them blaze from the stalls. And of course, a lantern dangles from every hand. It's a sea of color and light. But to Amy, no lantern is as beautiful as hers. And there's her family. There's the family's new lantern. With the grandma, the mom, the dad. Another grandma. And Amy. Alright, and we have this one that is For a Girl Becoming, and this is by Joy Harsha and Adriana Garcia. For a Girl Becoming. For a Girl Becoming, we have little moccasins. For my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren in honor of their becoming. picture. That day your spirit came to us. Rains came in from the Pacific to bless. Clouds peered over the mountains in response to the singing of medicine plants, who danced back and forth in shawls of mist. Your mother labored there, so young in earthly years, and your father and all of us who loved you gathered where pollen blew throughout that desert house to bless, and horses were running the land, hundreds of them, to accompany you here to bless. Girl, I wonder what you thought as you passed there in your spirit house before you entered into the breathing world to be with us. Were you longing for us too? Our relatives in that beloved place dressed you in black hair, brown eyes, skin the color of earth, and turned you in this direction. We want you to know that we urgently gathered to welcome you here. We came bearing gifts to celebrate. From your mother's house we brought poetry, music, medicine makers, stubbornness, beauty, tribal leaders, a yard filled with junked cars, and the gift of knowing how to make them run. We carried tobacco and cedar, new clothes, and joy for you. And from your father's house came educators, thinkers, dreamers, weavers, and mathematical genius. They carried a cradle board, hope, white shell, and turquoise for you. We brought blankets to wrap you in, soft beaded moccasins of deerskin. This looks like my family reunions. We have a bunch of people sitting and laughing and talking and playing la guitarra. Did you hear us as you traveled from your rainbow house? We called you with thunder, with singing. Did you see us as we gathered in the town beneath the mountains? We were dressed in concern and happiness. We were overwhelmed as you moved through the weft of your mother, even before you took your first breath. Your eyes blinked wide open. And here there's the spirits of the ancestors here. Now breathe, and when you breathe, remember the source of the gift of all breathing. This is so beautiful. And the spirit horse. When you walk, remember the source of the gift of all walking. And when you run, remember the source of the gift of all running. And when you laugh, remember the source of the gift of all laughter. And when you cry, remember the source of the gift of all tears. And when you dream, remember the source of the gift of all dreaming. And when your heart is broken, remember the source of the gift of all breaking. And when your heart is put back together, remember the source of all putting back together. Don't forget how you started your journey from that rainbow house, how you traveled and will travel through the mountains and valleys of human tests. There are treacherous places along the way, but you can come to us. There are lakes of tears shimmering sadly there, but you can come to us, and valleys without horses or kindnesses, but you can come to us, and angry, jealous gods and wayward humans who will hurt you, but you can come to us. You will fall, but you will get back up again, because you are one of us. And as you travel with us, remember this: give a drink of water to all who ask, whether they be plant, creature, human, or spirit. May you always have clean, fresh water. Feed your neighbors. Give kind words and assistance to all you meet along the way. We are all related in this place. May you be surrounded with the helpfulness of family and good friends. Grieve with the grieving. Share joy with the joyful. May you build a strong path with beautiful and truthful language. Clean your room. May you always have a home, a refuge from storm, a gathering place for comfort. Bury what needs to be buried. Laugh easily at yourself. Grow kindness with others. May you always travel lightly and well. Praise and give thanks for each small and large thing. May you grow in knowledge, in compassion, in beauty. Always within you is that day your spirit came to us, when rains came in from the Pacific to bless. They peered over the mountains in response to the singing of medicine plants, who danced back and forth in shawls of mist. Your mother labored there, so young in earthly years, and we, who love you, gather here. Pollen blows throughout this desert house to bless. And horses run the land, hundreds of them for you. And you are here to bless. What a beautiful story. And baby feet. Next we have the true story of the grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal, and what it means to be free. This is by Alice Faye Duncan and artistry by Katura Opal. Happy Juneteenth, Jamboree, come and join the fun. Opal waved to her great-grandson as he barreled across the park. He zipped past the lines of picnic tables covered with platters of barbecue, baked beans, tomato tarts, and raspberry cobbler. He hurried past a leaping choir draped in purple robes. He danced a jig with cowboys playing fiddles, but they did not stop his flow. Buddy ran to the blooming tree where Opal held court. Her braided hair was a silver crown. Her eyes were twinkling stars. Great granddear, Buddy called, tell us a Juneteenth story. Opal raised her face to the sun as memories of yesteryear filled her vision. When she had been a Texas bud like the other children at her feet, Granddaddy Zach told freedom stories on his wooden porch. As Opal remembered his words, she lifted her hands and cheered, Juneteenth means freedom, and now it's story time. Then Opal began. Once upon a blazing sun, black bodies were bought and sold like cattle. Black men plowed the fields, but were not allowed to own the land. Black women cooked the food, but were not allowed to feast on roast and ribs from the master's table. Black children cleaned the one-room schoolhouses, but were not allowed to read or write. Earning and learning were against the law. Slavery was a thief. American slavery dragged on like a plague until January 1st, 1863. That's when President Lincoln wielded courage and raised his feathered pen. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation with a mighty stroke. On the first day of January, in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves shall be forever free. Glory, 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 freedom was dazzling news like a bright starry night. However, Texas was big and many miles away from Mr. Lincoln. White masters defied his words. Black bodies remained in bondage. They plowed, they cooked, they cleaned. Freedom did not ring through Texas in 1863. It was toiling times in the Lone Star State. For 2 years, 5 months, and 18 more weary days. Then finally joy jumped up on dancing feet in the Gulf town of Galveston. The year was 1865. The day was June 19th. Gordon Granger marched through Galveston with Union Army troops. The general raised his booming voice and spoke these righteous words. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Opal danced in a circle. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means it's freedom time. Can you imagine the excitement? Singing filled the air. Happy tears rolled down like rain. Black families leaped through cotton fields and played tambourines. It was a day of jubilee, perfect for Texas barbecue, watermelon, and sweet potato pie, delicious delights they had been denied during servitude. Opal told the children, "Remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Juneteenth is bigger than Texas, singing or dancing bands. Juneteenth is freedom rising, and freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is you and me." As the children clapped and cheered, Buddy tugged her sleeve. "Great granddear," he called, "what was Juneteenth like when you were a kid?" Opal unwrapped another story. Blacks and whites lived separately when I was a child. Jim Crow signs littered old Fort Worth in every public place. Black families were banned from Forest Park Zoo, except one day of the year. On Juneteenth, we could picnic, party, and ride the Ferris wheel. I hated that zoo. I loved it too. The birdhouse was my favorite. But he groaned and shook his head. "The old days don't sound good." Good and bad worked together like the sun and rain. I spent good days on my granddaddy's porch, reading poetry books. His farm was my playground. I ran across the fields and climbed the tallest oak. Glory, glory, glory. Some memories are chocolate sweet, but some memories cut and bruise. My saddest season started on Juneteenth Day, 1939. An angry mob with flaming sticks burned my family's brand new house. Their broken minds and evil hearts were so afraid of Black progress. The police made no arrests. My family moved away. And yet the embers burn. That fire still lives in me. I learned a big lesson that Juneteenth day. Freedom is a golden coin. Struggle makes it shine. And no matter how long it takes for freedom to stretch across the land, I will keep on teaching. I will keep on reaching. I will keep on walking. I will keep on talking. I will raise my voice on the prairie and the mountaintop until freedom rings. The children lifted their hands in praise. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means it's freedom time. Opal winked and chuckled. I think now it's time for barbecue, strawberry cake, and red Juneteenth punch. Glory, glory, glory. Buddy cheered and waved his hands. When he bounced up to leave, Opal hugged him tightly. Then, just like birds in flight, all the children flocked into her arms. Opal studied their shining faces. Black, brown, bronze, gold, tan, white, freckles. As the children dashed away, she marveled at the bright future. She rested against the blooming tree and whispered into the wind, "Remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is you and me." So the next one we have is the night before Eid. I'm not sure if it's Eid or Eid, so I'll probably do it both ways and hope that one of them is correct. But this is a Muslim family story from Aya Khalil and illustrated by Rasheen Carrier. It is the night before Eid, and Taita is finally here from Egypt. Zayn and Mama are ready to help Taita with her famous ka'ak. This is Zayn's first time making the sweet treats. He can't wait to share them with his class. Baking ka'ak requires patience and teamwork. Ka'ak are delectable, delicate, crunchy, crumbly cookies covered in powdered sugar. But the best part is the surprise inside, feelings of finger-licking flavor. Zayn unpacks the ingredients from Tita's bulky suitcase. Ghee from Kalo Karim's farm, honey from Tantazir's beehive, and dates from Amo Girji's date palm. Tita and Mama recall when they used to stay up all night to bake with the whole family. Cousins took turns mixing the ingredients. Aunties drew intricate henna designs on hands. Uncles sorted money into gift envelopes for the next day. Idia for the cousins and Idia for the kids on the block who sold jasmine garlands. Geta played Eid songs such as Alan Bel Eid and Ya Lifer El Eid on his tabla, while everyone sang together on the balcony that overlooks streets filled with colorful lanterns and bright lights. After Eid prayers, we would hand out the ka'ak to our neighbors and friends, Mama says. Zayn rolls up his sleeves. The ka'ak must turn out perfectly so his classmates and Miss Bryan will like them. His friend Graham shared sugar cookies last week and everyone loved those. Tita says that the ka'ak are as ancient as the pharaohs. Recipes were even discovered in one of the pyramids. Centuries later, rulers filled kach with golden coins and passed them to the community. Plop, plop. Tita scoops globs of ghee into the dry ingredients. Ploop, ploop. Zane pours the milk. Swish, swish. Mama turns on the mixer. As Tita, Zane, and Mama wait for the ingredients to mix, they drink Kamar al-Din. Zane savors every sip of the iced apricot juice made with a dash of orange blossom. Tita checks on the dough to make sure it's just right. She sings the words from one of her favorite poets, Faoud Haddad. Oh, Eid cookies, I am your grateful taker. Please send my regards to your baker. Zane crushes the nuts using Tita's mortar and pestle, ragged but strong, passed down from one generation to the next. Clink, clink. Mama scoops the shiny dough perfectly round and smooth, like Ramadan's full moon. Zane presses his thumb into the dough, just enough for Tita to drop in the fillings. Next, Tita shows Zane how to use the kach mold. Did you know your Egyptian ancestors designed geometric shapes on their kach? She says. My Tita Daulat made the most beautiful kach in town. She didn't even need to use a mold. Tita Daulat was so generous, she shared this recipe with anyone who asked for it. Zane presses the dough too hard into the mold. Gently, Tita says. Zane presses slightly this time. The design hardly shows. Ejad Akhtar, Tita says. He squeezes harder. Clunk, the mold and dough tumble to the floor. No. Ugh. Zane slumps into a chair. Tita softly brushes Zane's curls away from his eyes. Her hands smell like cinnamon and cloves. El sabr Camille. She reminds him that patience is beautiful. Zane slurps his Kamar al-Din. He stirs the ice with a shiny metal straw. He notices its smooth, round tip. Aha! Zane creates zigzags on the kach with his straw. Poke, poke. Camille, Tita says. Beep, beep. The kach are finally done. The spiced aroma fills the air. Warm vanilla, toasted sesame seeds, sweet honey. After the kach cool down, it's time for the fun part. Tita helps Zane sprinkle powdered sugar using a mint sieve. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, Zane sings. Tita, Mama, and Zane taste a couple before sorting them into boxes. It melts in my mouth. If only the kach were filled with golden coins, my friends would really love that. Zane laughs and powdered sugar erupts everywhere. But these are more valuable, Mom says. They're loaded with tradition. On Monday, Zane brings a wrapped box of kach to Miss Bryan. Thank you, Zane. They smell delicious, she says. The whole class buzzes with curiosity and excitement. I can help pass them out, Sana says. Her smile reminds Zane of Tita's warm grin. Graham says. These are so good. Even Ellen, the pickiest eater in class, likes them. Can I have the recipe, Zane? Miss Bryan asks. I will ask my Tita, Zane says. After school, Zane rushes home and Tita greets him with a hug. Everyone loved our kach, he says. In the evening, Zane and Tita write down the recipe for his class as they sip shay and nibble on Eid treats. Eid Mubarak. Tita, Zane says. He reaches for the last kach, but pauses. He dusts off the extra sugar and places the cookie on Tita's plate. He kisses her right hand. This is the best I eat ever. What's their recipe? It's quite a sweet story, literally. I hope you enjoyed that. And we have our last book here, the Hanukkah with Mazel. A Hanukkah with Mazel by Joel Edward Stein and illustrated by Elisa Vapuri. Misha was a very good artist, but a very poor man. He lived by himself in a tiny cottage outside the village of Grodno. Few people in Grodno had enough money to buy his paintings, so Misha made do with very little. He lived on the few potatoes he grew in his yard and the milk he got from his old cow, Clara. One winter night, when the winds howled and the snow blew around the windows, a little cat wandered into Misha's barn. She made her way to the stall where Clara was sleeping and curled up beside the old cow for warmth. Clara didn't mind having a visitor, and she gave her approval with a low moo. In the morning when Misha came to milk Clara, he saw the cat huddled in a corner of the stall, so weak she could hardly walk. My, what have we here?" Misha said to the cat. "Where did you come from?" The cat looked up at him with her emerald green eyes. She seemed to sense that Misha was a kind man. "You're so thin," Misha said in a soothing voice. "Poor old Clara didn't have much milk to give, but we can share." Misha took the cat back to his cottage and gave her a dish of milk. She weakly lapped it up and purred gratefully. "It's a good thing you wandered in here," Misha said. "I don't think you would have survived the cold night outside." The cat curled up in a blanket that Misha set down near the fireplace. "Now, get some rest and you'll feel better soon," said Misha to the cat. "I think I'll call you Mazel. You're certainly a very lucky cat to have wandered out of the cold and into my barn." In the afternoon, Misha brought Mazel another dish of milk. "My cupboard is almost empty," said Misha, "but tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, and I am making latkes. We will celebrate together." He went to his pantry where he found 2 potatoes and enough oil to fry the latkes. "I'll grate the potatoes the way my grandmother taught me," Misha said to Mazel. "We'll add a little oil to the pan, a little salt, a little pepper, and we'll have our Hanukkah latkes." "And tonight we must light the first Hanukkah candle." On the mantel over the fireplace stood a beautiful silver menorah with figures of 2 bold lions holding the 10 Commandments. "My grandfather made this wonderful menorah," Misha said to Mazel. "I have no money for candles, so I don't know how we will light them, but Hanukkah is a time for hope." Suddenly, Misha had an idea. "I may not have candles," he said to Mazel, "but I am an artist, and an artist has paint." Misha took a fresh canvas and stood it on his easel. He dabbed his brush in the paint and made a bold stroke on the canvas. As Mazel watched, Misha painted a beautiful large menorah, just like the one that stood on the mantel. Then he painted all the candles, including the shamash. "Now we're ready for Hanukkah." At sundown, when it was time to light the first Hanukkah candle, Misha sang the blessing as he painted one flame on the shamash and another flame on the first candle. Then he sat down to eat his latkes. He put one latke into Mazel's dish. Mazel gave a meow of approval and licked her whiskers. The next night, when Misha went to the easel to draw the next candle flame, he saw how little paint he had left. "We will have to make these paints last as long as we can, Mazel," he said. By the fourth night of Hanukkah, Misha had run out of yellow paint, so he made do with a little blue, a little orange, and a little red. On the eighth night, Misha sang the blessing and used the last drop of paint to make the final flame. The next afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Through the window, Misha could see the horse and wagon of a peddler. He opened the door to greet a small man with a big smile. "Shalom, shalom," the man said cheerfully. "I'm Meyer, the merchant, and I sell many things. Perhaps I have something you would like to buy." "I'd love to see what you have," said Misha, "but I have no money to buy your goods." "Well, perhaps you have something you can trade then," suggested Meyer, peeking around the door. Misha smiled. "I am an artist, and an artist has paintings." He led Meyer inside and showed him his paintings. Meyer looked at scenes from Misha's childhood and paintings of Jewish holidays and weddings. A portrait of a little cat caught his eye. "These are wonderful," said Meyer. They heard a loud meow as the cat scampered toward them, purring loudly. "Goldie, is it really you?" exclaimed Meyer, scooping Mazel into his arms. "Goldie?" Misha looked from Mazel to Meyer. "Yes, I have had her since she was a tiny kitten," said Meyer. "A few nights ago, while I was asleep, she must have jumped out of the wagon. I've been looking for her." "So that means Mazel is Goldie," cried Misha. Meyer looked confused. "Mazel? I found her in my barn one morning," Misha explained. "She was very weak, so I took her in and I cared for her. She was lucky to find my barn, and I was lucky to find her." "Yes, now I see why you named her Mazel," said Meyer. "She certainly was lucky." Misha tried to smile. Mazel had become his good friend, but now he realized that she would have to go back to her owner. Meyer turned to the paintings. "You have quite a collection here," he said. "I especially like that wonderful menorah painting on the easel. I know many people who would be interested in buying paintings like these. Would you be interested in selling them to me?" "Of course," said Misha. He helped Meyer load the paintings into the wagon. Meyer said, "I'm on the road a lot, and I wonder if you would do me a small favor. Could you take care of Mazel for me?" A broad smile appeared on Misha's face. "That is not a favor," he said. "That is a gift." Mazel weaved back and forth between Misha and Meyer's legs, purring happily. Meyer climbed up on his wagon. He waved to Misha and Mazel as he drove slowly away. "I'll be back," he shouted. "Happy Hanukkah to both of you." That was an interesting story of being very giving and creative with what little we have sometimes, to make do with what we have, and celebrating in ways that we can with special loved ones who come into our lives. I hope you have enjoyed this story time. I hope you enjoyed every one of these books and that there was something about them that blessed you in some way, maybe something that reminded you of your own family, your own traditions, your friends and their traditions, of being thankful, of being kind, of being encouraged and remembering your own strengths. There are so many beautiful stories out there, and I hope that you find books that you enjoy reading and that encourage you, maybe challenge you to think a little differently, but that they help you grow as a person. So, thanks again for coming in, and I hope you have a beautiful day.